how's it going? Matthew Bailey Media here, and welcome to another tier list video. Now, I know it's been a while since I've done the last one. I believe the last one I think I did was for the original streaming shows. Possibly, I'm not 100%, but all I know is that it's been a while since my last one. Now, this one, if you can tell by the title of this video, this is going to be my tier list of ranking all the Star Wars related content that has come out since Disney owned the rights to the franchise. So that's what this is going to be. So you will not see the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy on here. But you will see some that you may get confused as to why they're on here if these already had seasons that came before Disney bought them. I'll explain that when we get into the video. But for now, let's get into my tier list for all Disney related Star Wars content. Hey guys, so here we are now at the Disney related Star Wars shows and movies that have come out since Disney has owned the rights to the franchise. Now, if you notice, we have quite a few on here actually. So we're gonna start off with Star Wars Rebels. Now, I have watched most of Star Wars Rebels, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen the entire show, but I have seen most of it, and I will say this show probably deserves to be in I would say the B tier. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I think it's fine, but not as but maybe if I watch the entire show, maybe it may get downgraded to the C tier, but we'll see. Now, here's a show that I actually will be the first one put on the haven't seen tier. Now, I have not seen Star Wars Resistance yet, but as far as I know, it does take place right before the events of the sequel trilogy, which we will get into. And here's another one I actually haven't seen yet, and that is, of course, Star Wars Tales of the Empire. I have seen Tales of the Jedi, though, so I will be ranking that one. Now we move on to the big one. So Star Wars The Force Awakens, the first actual movie in the lineup of movies that were owned by Disney for Star Wars. Now, I will say this, I think, is one of the few movies that I really enjoyed out of the ones, and so I'm going to put it in the A tier. Not necessarily in the S tier. We will have some things in the S tier, though. But I thought it was a really decent film. That says a lot following its when it came to its followers, or follow-ups, I should say. Next up, we have Tales of the Jedi. We finally got to Tales of the Jedi now. And like I said, this does sort of feature like small little short episodes of like what happened during the events of the Clone Wars, which I think we will get into that one too, because there is one season of Star Wars that took place within Disney. So we'll have to, add that on later. But for Tales of the Jedi, I will say it wasn't a bad show. I mean, but I'm still going to probably put it in C tier. It wasn't as good as I was hoping for it to be, even though it is just short episodes. Next up, we have Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, even though a lot of people were really upset with this movie, I still thought it was a decent film, but I'm probably going to put it just above Tales of the Jedi, in my opinion. It's still going to be in the C tier, thankfully. Now we move on to the last movie of that trilogy, of course, and that is The Last Jedi. Honestly, I don't know whether I should put it in D tier or F tier, because I really did not like the way it was going. Honestly, I might just put it in the D tier. Honestly, I didn't think it was that as bad as most people were saying it was, but I still think it's the worst one out of the sequel trilogy. Now we move on to the most recent Star Wars show that I saw, which was Skeleton Crew. Now, like I said, I did enjoy it, I will admit. But if I had to rank it, I would say it probably is going to go into the B tier, right behind Star Wars Rebels, because I really did enjoy it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Now, unfortunately, I'm not even going to say much about this, but next up is The Acolyte. You know it was going to go there. I mean, it is literally the worst thing to ever come out of Star Wars, in my opinion. It's mainly because this is the only Star Wars related property that tried to shove a bunch of politics into it. And I know that the Republic is considered politics, but hey, when I say they try to push politics, I specifically mean woke politics. Like the main character was just not interesting. The way they addressed certain characters was not cool, and they made it seem like the Jedi were the bad guys this whole time, and the way they did it was just ridiculous. So next up we got the Book of Boba Fett. Now the Book of Boba Fett is sort of a spin-off to The Mandalorian as well, which we will get to later, but I will admit Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett was probably the only other one that's going to be in the D tier for me. But it does go over The Last Jedi, of course, because it was definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it still ended up being pretty bad. Now we have Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Now this is one of 2 spin-off movies in the universe that came out after Disney bought Lucasfilm. And I will say, out of the 2 spin-off movies, this is the one that's my favorite. I think I like it so much that, do I put it in the A tier? I actually think I like it more than The Force Awakens, but that's just my opinion. Next up, we have Solo, A Star Wars Story. Now, this actually does tell the origin of Han Solo in Star Wars and why he ended up being the way he is. Unfortunately, I know they had to recast them, obviously, to make them look younger, but I still think it would have been a lot easier to just try to tell the story. I feel like they could have found someone who looks a little bit more like Harrison Ford did at the age he was, because the guy who they cast to play him did not look the part at all. The only person that I think did look like their character in real time was Donald Glover, who played the young version of Lando. So, but honestly, I probably will put it in the D tier, but it's definitely better than The Book of Boba Fett or Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now we move on to The Mandalorian. Now, unfortunately, even though it has multiple seasons, that's the thing, is that I have to factor in all of the seasons. So, The Mandalorian, the first 2 seasons are gold, but unfortunately, because of the 3rd season, I probably would put it in the A category, just behind The Force Awakens. And that is just my opinion. Now we move on to Star Wars The Bad Batch. This is another one that has multiple seasons. Now, I have seen all 3 seasons, and after seeing the 3rd season, I'll admit the 3rd season actually seemed like it was a good way to end off it, because it actually does sort of lead into the events of Star Wars Rebels in a way. Because when you look at Star Wars Rebels, you can tell that a lot of the events of the Bad Batch does end up coming back in Star Wars Rebels in a way. At least for some of the episodes I've seen from Rebels. And I will say this one is probably going to be in the B category, right behind Skeleton Crew. I really did enjoy it. All 3 seasons, in my opinion. Now, I think we're going to move on to the very first show or Star Wars related project in the S category, which of course is Star Wars Andor. This definitely deserves to be the only successful thing to come out of Star Wars since Disney bought them, in my opinion. Because I gotta admit, every time, the way they did Star Wars Andor was such a good inspiration. Heck, and literally Rogue One is right behind it in the A category. I think this was the best spin-off movie they could have done in the universe. And that's just my opinion. And unfortunately, because I think this actually happened after the tragic passing of Carrie Fisher, I think was her name. She had to play. She was the one who played Princess Leia in the main Star Wars universe, and they did have like a younger version of her, and they did cast someone who looked almost identical to Carrie Fisher before she passed away to be in this movie. So I think that's the best way they could have done that. Now we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. I gotta admit, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I feel like it should have been a movie in my opinion, because the way the story elements they were telling in this series did not make any sense at all. So I'm probably gonna have to put Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think right about here. I still liked it more than the Book of Boba Fett and The Last Jedi, but that's just me. And we also have Ahsoka. Now this is another series that is similar to the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and the Andor show in a way. This sort of tells a little bit about the events of. This takes place after Star Wars Rebels, and I did see the entire season, but I may have to watch the entire of Star Wars Rebels to understand why certain elements happened in Star Wars Ahsoka. But I will probably put it in the C tier, just behind the Rise of Skywalker. And again, that's just me. Now, I was going to also include Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 on here, but I forgot to put it in the little imagery if you didn't notice. So, but as to where I would have put it, it would probably be in the S tier, because that was a good way to lead into the events of the Empire. Like the way they handled the Revenge of the Sith or whatever, and that was released after or before Disney bought Star Wars, but I still think the way they ended it was perfect. Was a perfect fit, especially when it came to how the events of Revenge of the Sith went down and the end of season 7. So that's my ranking of all the Disney Star Wars related projects that have come out since Disney bought Lucasfilm. If I missed anything that y'all think I need to add, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll watch Resistance and Tales of the Empire soon. Not too sure, but we'll see what happens. So anyways, that's all for now in this tier list video, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.